Hello, all, and welcome to this evening's, night's, because it's almost 9 o'clock, Moonshine review. So, yeah, Moon is out, so perfect time to be reviewing Moonshine. Now, let me give the caveat here that I am not the biggest fan of moonshine or white whiskey. I find it rough at best. Well, I should say, oftentimes very rough and at best, usually very one note. But this is a local moonshine, white whiskey. So I kind of feel obliged to review it, even though it is not my cup of tea. I'm going to try to be as impartial as possible, given that there are fans of this style. So I say local, but that's with the caveat as well. So this is Virgin Kea Moonshine, mash number 13. And this is from the Kauai Distilling Company, which is part of a family of companies owned by a gentleman from Kauai who's also started the only local cigar manufactory, in that the leaves are grown here on Hawaii and, you know, are rolled elsewhere because there are no professional rollers here in Hawaii, and probably it would be very cost prohibitive to do so. So the filler and I believe binder leaves are grown here on Kauai, well, over there on Kauai, next island over, and taken to somewhere else, rolled, and then sold. And I've been impressed by one of their line, and impressed by another aspect of their line, in which the nicotine content is incredibly high. It's one of those ones that give me the spins, and there are not many cigars that give me the spins. Their best one didn't give me the spins, but the one that they most commonly sell gave me the spins. So he also owns a coffee company, which I know nothing about. I'm guessing there's coffee grown on Kauai. And so he decided to go and start a company here, which makes whiskey from corn grown on Kauai. Corn being pretty much the only seed grain that grows well in Hawaii. Wheat and rye and barley are kind of all out of the questions, being temperate crops. Corn being much more amenable to tropical conditions, or subtropical as Hawaii is. Now, I give that caveat because he intended to distill this in Hawaii, but according to his own words, he was almost completely done with all the licensing and paperwork necessary to create a distillery, and then one of his neighbors decided to go and file like some sort of legal dispute, which made it impossible. So he had all this corn but no place to distill it while the distillery was on hold, and so he ended up shipping it to some place, I believe here, Spokane, Washington, to be distilled. So corn grown in Hawaii and shipped by transport to Washington and then shipped back to Hawaii, because I don't believe this is distributed anywhere else other than Hawaii. Now the bulk of the distillate was then barrel aged for a short period and is sold as Kapahi bourbon whiskey, Kauai bourbon whiskey. Uh, which I haven't reviewed yet because that's about $50 a bottle. I figure I will eventually get around to reviewing it, but when I would like to have the other whiskey distilled here in Hawaii to kind of side by side it. I'm kind of giving this one a pass. Usually there are other things that sort of have Hawaii branding that are not distilled in Hawaii that I don't really review. This one was intended to be distilled in Hawaii, and I believe that the owner actually has a case. So a lot of the reasoning given for the legal hold was that, one, distilling was an industrial process being done on property that was zoned agricultural. Well, There are other distilleries in the state that do the exact same thing, including, I believe, Kohana Rum, which is in former sugarcane fields on Oahu. And the other one is that the distillery was too close to residential areas. Well, there are distilleries in urban Honolulu in which there is a residential area literally a stone's throw away from just about anywhere in urban Honolulu. Even the industrial zone of Sand Island has like remnant houses from before it was zoned industrial. So like there's always residents everywhere. And in fact, Kaka'ako, which was traditionally industrial, light industrial area, is now sort of mixed industrial and high-end commercial and residential as it gentrifies. So you'll have like this furniture manufacturer next to like this frou-frou bar, and then further down the street is a high rise that's mostly owned by people who aren't from here, sadly. But it's 6 minutes in. I haven't even gotten around to popping this open or even reading the back, so I guess I should read the back first. Made from our Hawaii-grown corn and the finest rye and barley grains, this American moonshine is painstakingly handcrafted to perfection. Twice distilled and filtered, this clear alcohol, or virgin kea as we like to call it, never touches wood and derives its taste solely from our farms and distilling process. The result of this handcrafted distillate yields a spirit that is best enjoyed with one of our Kauai cigars. From our Hawaii farms and Washington distillery, we hope you enjoy this very special liquor. So, this is 45% ABV, 90 proof. And without much further ado, let's get into the Glencairn. I think that's like the most I've talked for like anything I've reviewed. Sorry, the rubber stopper on this is kind of hard. So I got a pizza over there that's getting cold, but at my age, it's like microwaving food doesn't bother me as much anymore. So, microwaving a pizza to go and warm it up after it's been sitting a while, I don't find it really hurt it. A little bit of an overpour, but I'm not planning on drinking much tonight. So, clear. Somewhat thin legging, but it holds up. Sweet corn. It smells hot. There's quite a bit of alcohol smell in there. Ethanol smell. But the main note is of sweet corn. Sweet corn and ethanol, pretty much. Sweet up front. Not very corny, though, on the palate. Almost numbing on the lips. While it's not too hot on the palate, it definitely feels hot going down and into the belly. It feels like moonshine in the belly. Mid to finish kind of has a sort of bitterness to it that goes into the long finish, kind of almost a medicinal taste. Not very pleasant to me, but I find it something that's very common in white whiskeys. This is just water. I'm trying to clear my palate right now. That taste is kind of lingering on the tongue for quite some time, even after the water goes down. The thing about white whiskeys for me, it's like no matter how much, whatever kind of taste, it's like it's not like rum, where white rum tastes like something that's complete. When I drink a white whiskey, I always feel like no matter how smooth it is or how good it is, it always feels like this voice in my head says, "Wouldn't it be just so much better if it was aged on wood? Polish off those rough notes, give it some complexity." And well, yeah. And to be honest, this is not the worst white whiskey I've had by far. I've had some white whiskeys, like those really mass market commercial ones that kind of taste like rubbing alcohol with cherries dumped into it or something like that. This is not something I would seek out. Um, I have to say, even if you're a white whiskey fan, this is probably going to leave you wanting a little bit. But at the same time, it's not going to offend your palate overly much. And, oh god, the entire neighborhood dogs decided to go nuts. Wonderful. Doesn't burn on the mouth, at least. You know? It's hot going from here on down. It's hot, but it's smooth on the palate more or less. And I'm looking forward to trying the Kauai bourbon. This is not my cup of tea. Even so, I'm trying to review it as even-handedly as possible, and I find it's kind of mediocre. I don't like having to say this about locally made products, especially locally made products where the person involved has a passion and is kind of getting stymied a little bit. Um, if you like supporting locally made products like I do, definitely go out and try this and review it. If you like white whiskey, you might enjoy it. I don't know. As of all things, your mileage may vary. This will be something that I take to bottle sharing parties to have others try. This is not one I'm going to be hoarding completely for myself. But even the stuff I like, I don't hoard completely for myself. Well, folks, that was your white whiskey / moonshine review for today, in which half of it was just exposition, and 7 minutes of it was basically me saying, well, I'm not a fan of the style, and even being as even-handed as possible, this is kind of Can't wait to go and try the age statement. See how that goes. Virgin Kea. Give it a try if moonshine, white whiskey is your thing. Excuse me. Well, folks, that is your review for this evening. I am going to go and make that pizza and do laundry. Cheers.